Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hope Dealer podcast in Dallas, Texas, with Dr. Brian Hooten here and the lovely Kiki. Just before we get started, we won another award. I mean, it's outrageous. Every day, every day I get this email list of awards that we won.
Wow.
And my favorite one of today was Best Duo of a Hope Dealer Kiki podcast in history. So if you ever see this again, that'll be shocking. It's a one-off. We're the only ones, so we're going to get the award probably every day.
I love it.
Today's topic is certainly nothing to shake your head at. It's cancer. We're going to dive into it. I brought Kiki on here, who's working in an office temporarily at the moment, and you'll be seeing her around quite a bit. Emily is on board and doing great. So it's all about cancer. So in this first show, Kiki, why don't you start us off with a question, any question that you got.
So the very first time I met you, you talked to me about Mish and how...
My wife.
Yeah, and about how, kind of her story and about how you come to help her. And the thing that stuck out in my brain the most was they thought she had breast cancer, and you weren't afraid of it. Why were you not afraid that she might have breast cancer?
Great question. If anybody is out there with breast cancer or any kind of cancer, I would forward this to them because maybe this is the most important question you could have asked. The reason that neither one of us, like if you'd have seen Misha's face when this, there was a female hormone specialist that did a type of scan on her and looked across the table at both of us and says, you have aggressive, that was the terminology, some type of later stage cancer.
Right.
And this was 10 years ago, so she was in her 30s. And you need to go right now to the oncologist and start the whole process. That was the conversation, and she was saying this to us. And I wish I had a recording of the looks on our face because we weren't scared at all. The reason being is that I know, and therefore Mish knows, how cancer develops. So if in fact she did have cancer at any stage, if we know how it develops, like down to the specifics, then by de facto we know how to undo it. So there was never a thought of going for surgery, radiation, or chemo. And here we are 10 years later, and she's got no sign of any of that anywhere. Yeah. She had mentioned a few times that she felt like during self-exams, maybe a lump in the most common region is up in that quadrant near your armpit. That's all gone. We've had multiple scans since then. Not a mammogram, by the way, and no radiation involved. And no surgery, no chemo, no radiation, no oncologist visit, nothing. And she's great. If you see my wife, I mean, she's the picture of health. She turned her body into a cancer killer. What we had to do, because we were already living this lifestyle, we had to figure out what we had missed.
Yeah.
So we know the rules. We thought we were following them, but there was one big thing that we had missed. And just a short version of that story, she was, and she has always worked out so hard that she had drained her body of certain nutrients, of certain minerals, key minerals like potassium, magnesium, sodium, and all these minerals support your body's system overall, whether you're trying to fight off cancer, your immune system. So she had run herself out of those things, and so her system itself was weak. And just logically thinking about it, if you let your body get weak slowly over time, what are your chances of falling prey to cancer? They're going to be higher. Basically, the weaker or the sicker that you get, the greater your chances of this disease taking over. Great question.
Okay.
So we just knew how we got there. We just had to figure out what that little missing piece was.
Okay. Ever since I found out exactly what cancer is, which maybe you can explain to us, what exactly is cancer?
Okay, so again, I'll say this again. If you are dealing with cancer, listen up. The biggest thing you can do is just gain the knowledge. I'll give you some action steps along the way, which is, of course, up to you, but the knowledge is key. And then action, right? What is knowledge without action? So how does cancer develop? If you were to Google right now a chart say, how does cancer develop, and look at like even what the CDC says, or the American Cancer Society, they've gotten away from the language of genetics.
Right.
And there's like a flow chart that you'll see. And on the first slide, it'll have like 100 normal cells and one what they call abnormal cell. And then in the next slide, this abnormal cell has multiplied and it progresses into more multiplication, and then these different cells, they're communicating with each other and they're all abnormal. So that's what the system says is how cancer develops. It starts with an abnormal cell that keeps multiplying.
But we all have abnormal cells.
You're exactly right. Where the system stops and they don't tell you is what causes that abnormal cell.
Right.
That is the key. And I've listened to I don't know how many experts in the field of natural cancer prevention and treatment, including the medical side of it. They're all saying abnormal cell growth. I mean, that is like the buzzword. It's the cliche now. And Kiki said it, we all have them. Basically what that means is every one of us has cancer right now. Think about that. You guys behind the podcast, I'm not exaggerating, and don't look at this as me condemning you, but you have cancer cells in you right now. We have had them since the day we were born. So the question revolves around, how does that abnormal cell develop? That comes from your behavior or your lifestyle. Is it promoting oxygen getting into the cells? So the key word is oxygen. I mean, ultimately that's what's going to trigger this whole process. So let's just take a whole group of healthy cells. If one of them isn't getting enough oxygen, it is going to adapt, just like anything else. We're all creatures of adaptation. That's a big word. We're going to talk about that at the Cancer Killers Workshop. Yeah. If I start eating donuts and candy and quit exercising, I'm going to adapt and get really fat. That's the way we work. Your cells adapt also. So if you have healthy cells, which we're born with, 100 trillion of them, and some of them aren't getting enough oxygen, when those cells divide and they have baby cells, these new baby cells have begun the adaptation process. So they're different. They're a little bit abnormal.
Right.
Well, if you don't change your environment to clean things up so oxygen can get in to the cell, these abnormal cells will keep having more baby abnormal cells, and that is the beginning of cancer. So it comes down to, is your lifestyle allowing oxygen to freely get into the cells or not?
Right. So ever since I knew what cancer was, I've been afraid that I'm going to get it. How do I prevent from getting it?
Well, the very direct answer is you cannot prevent from getting it.
Okay.
We would have to go live in on a mountain, drink water from the freshly melted snow with zero toxicity in it, live off the organic dirt and all the plants growing in there, and hunt. We couldn't have anything toxic on our body in order to not get some type of cancer cells. So to answer your question, you said I've been afraid I'm going to get cancer. Yeah. The reality is we need to be more afraid of messing up our lifestyle. Okay. We need to turn that fear towards fast food restaurants. Like, we don't eat it. I don't think my daughter has ever even had a French fry from a fast food restaurant. Now, we've tried our best to keep it really clean. Yeah. Some other family members whom I love, they snuck her some tortilla chips from like a restaurant, and we had a cow because those things are so addictive. And we know that if she starts eating those now, she's going to make more cancer cells. We're taking responsibility for our daughter's health.
Right.
And then when she's 16, 17, 18 and making a lot more decisions on her own, she's going to have that knowledge in her, hey, I can't eat this crap. It's going to give me more cancer cells or any other disease. So the fear that we have about getting cancer, we need to step back and take that fear and avoid the things that cause cancer cells. We need to avoid those things like the plague. Get away from them and yank your family away from them. So I guess realizing that we all have cancer cells in us every day, and that's, again, common knowledge. You can talk to any expert, and if they say you don't, they're lying. The proper way to look at it was like, okay, I know I have them. Let's make sure my immune system is killing them. That I'm promoting an oxygen-rich environment that can actually get into the cell. And that touches on another thing. If you watch some of these gurus out there, they all talk about, or a lot of them will say, cancer cannot grow in an oxygen-rich environment. That's not true. Oxygen has to get into the cell. That's the key. You can have all the oxygen out here in the world, but if it's not getting into your cells at 100%, that's the problem.
You mentioned something a couple questions ago, which is genetics. So my father died of esophageal cancer. What are my chances of getting it because he had it?
So to answer that directly, the genetics, like your father, your father or grandpa?
My father.
Your father. This has been proven, right? If you want to take a deep dive into something called epigenetics, the fact that our parents have cancer means nothing to whether we're going to get it or not, except for one thing.
Okay.
If we inherit their lifestyle. If we behave like our family does, our parents did, then of course we're going to get very similar results. But geneticists, and specifically the epigeneticists, meaning the people that study how genes behave over time, what influences genes, they've disproven this cancer link in family. 30 years ago was the first time I remember reading about it. And there's all kinds of case studies with twins where one twin got cancer, the other didn't.
Right.
You're not going to get more genetically identical than that.
Right.
For every instance that one mom got breast cancer and the daughter got breast cancer, there was another instance where no cancer in the mom, breast cancer in the daughter, and vice versa. So it comes down to ultimately it's lifestyle.
Good.
Now there's some things that are out of your control, don't get me wrong, like if you accidentally breathe in asbestos, that's going to promote, and that's why lung cancers are so prevalent, because the oxygen exchange, right? And the asbestos just interferes with that oxygen exchange into the cell so radically. That's why it's such deadly. The mesothelioma is the lung cancer that causes. But if you're breathing that and you don't know it, well, that's an accident.
Right.
I would venture to say that most of us need to radically alter our lifestyle from our parents.
Yeah.
Thankfully, my dad, God rest his soul, and he's in heaven, thankfully, and mom. The first 50 years of their life, they destroyed their body. I mean, they smoked when they were younger. They ate crap all the time. I mean, it was fast food. Even with me as a kid, it was McDonald's all the time. And any kind of fast food. Donuts, regularly, really instant, non-organic coffee that was sort of a staple around Dad's office. So they spent 50 to 55 years destroying their life. Then when I got into practice, we spent the next 20 to 25 years correcting it, and they got some serious quality out of those last 2 decades. So that was great.
So what is a step that I could take, because, well, I didn't know anything about anything like this until we met you. So I can kind of maybe reverse some of the damage that I have done. What's the first step?
Number one is, again, knowledge. Just you have to accept the fact that you're going to have these cancer cells. There's no way to avoid it. So if that's the case, or since that's the case, think in terms of, I want to make sure my body's killing those cells, because your immune system is always killing them. You get rid of, depending on who you read about, or who wrote what you read about, up to 10 to 15 to 20,000 cancer cells a day, you're always getting rid of. And that's your immune system, your brain, your spinal cord immune system, eradicating these cancer cells. So that's the first thing, is to support your immune system. So don't do the things that interfere with your immune system. And obviously a big one is food.
Right.
So cleaning up your food. Now, a lot of you out there, I eat pretty well. I mean, how many times have you heard that? Oh, I eat a great diet. And then I'll say, okay, what'd you have for breakfast?
Right.
And they say oatmeal. Instant oatmeal is a direct, that would clog up your cells badly, not only causing more abnormal cell growth, but the sugar is going to feed the cancer cells you already have.
Yeah.
So cleaning up your diet, I think, is the easiest thing and most cost-effective thing anybody can do. So right next up to that in importance is coming to see somebody like me. So let's say that you have these cancer cells growing in your body. Well, your brain wants to get rid of them. Now, your brain's in charge of all of it. Your brain's in charge of your immune system, period. Your liver, spleen, kidneys, bone marrow, anything involved in your immune system, your brain is in charge of that. So just logically, if we took my brain out, what happens to your whole immune system? Yeah, you're dead. It all stops. So you're not fighting cancer anymore. So you want to make sure your brain is getting through your spine. So you want to keep your spine fluid. And that's the key. You want to keep your spine flowing at 100% so it can always recognize where these cells are and send your immune system there to eradicate them. So just think of it logically. If your brain is getting to your body at 50%, and maybe you don't have any pain in your spine, the only way to know is to come in and see us, get x-rays, do an evaluation. And if your spine is stiff in there, even if you don't hurt, and it's blocking your brain getting to your body at 100%, what are your chances of cancer?
100%.
If your brain isn't going to get there, your chances of cancer are going up. So that just to summarize those two things, clean up your nutrition, and we have all kinds of info here. Basically cut out all the sugars that you can, any kind of simple carbohydrate, and the meats and protein that you eat and veggies that you eat, they need to be clean, not lean, clean, meaning wild-caught meats, wild-raised chickens and chicken eggs, wild-caught fish from an ocean or even from a river feeding into an ocean, like the salmon up in the northwest of the U.S., or cod, in Minnesota. Get a really clean fish, as clean as you could possibly get it, or organic veggies. The veggies that are sprayed with pesticides, they're just full of chemicals, and that all clogs up your cells and leads to more. So you got to really clean up your diet, not just lean and like what's the word that everybody uses? I eat so and so in moderation. There's no moderation. Just clean it up. It needs to be 100% clean. And then, like I said, come in and see us, and we'll evaluate your spine. And we've got 200 or 300 offices around the country that operate just exactly like we do, where you come in regularly, and we all should be doing that. How healthy do you want your kids? How healthy do you want your husband's cancer fighting system, their prostate, their colon, or even their heart, or protecting your brain? If you want them to be healthy, you will get them adjusted regularly, meaning weekly at least. And if there's big problems in the spine, then you get more aggressive at first. On the backside, though, your chances of cancer are tiny. Let alone, now you have knowledge. So like when Mish did get diagnosed, we didn't spend all that time and money on care that's only going to make her sicker. So that would be my summary for this episode. Take charge, understand how it develops, and then change your lifestyle with your food and start getting adjusted regularly, and watch the miracle happen. If you line up the people here that have been adjusted for, this is my 24th year. Yeah, I'm about to finish my 24th year in practice. Awesome. If you line up all the people that have been here for years and even decades, there's very little cancer. I off the top of my head, I can't think of one person that started care with us and did what I told them to, and then got diagnosed with cancer and went into the system. A couple of them have had some scares, like my wife, but instead of going to the system, they changed this and that, and
I believe it's probably the opposite. People have come here with cancer.
And we've had that too.
And then with proper treatment and changing their lifestyle, they're still here.
We'll talk about that in episode 2 of The Cancer Killer. So Kiki, thanks a lot for that one. And remember, drugs are bad. God is great, and so are you. Talk to you next time.